Yes, so this is my brand and these are my work. And like I said, we are not doing anything extraordinary, but what we do is a very identity-based garment that is for us is mekhala. We Tagore call it as a kashmir. And I think in most of the mainstream, it's known as mekhala or like wrap around. And the thing which I really wanted to discuss about this topic is indigenous fashion. So my topic is protection in the marketing of indigenous fashion and the SWOT analysis of this indigenous fashion. And when I say indigenous fashion, or when I'm going to explain indigenous fashion, honestly, I don't know exactly what indigenous fashion is, because indigenous for us is very subjective. I mean, with my understanding. So, I am going to go with my own interpretation, and it's not. I'm not going to quote from anyone, but for me, when I say indigenous fashion means identity. So it's I'll just describe as an identity-based design, or the one which you really wanted to represent. That's short for me is indigenous fashion. So like I said, my brand stands for indigenous fashion, and my brand stands for my people. My brand stands for the people who I really admire, and the one who we have a same belief and same vision. So before I start with my SWOT analysis, you must be knowing what SWOT SWOT means. So this is something which S stands for strength, and W stands for weakness, and O stands for opportunities, and T stands for threat. So like I said, my discussion is not based on any rules. It's my personal experience that I'm going to share. So for me, why SWOT analysis very important is because it is your stand which you are going to show to the world what you really represent. And to know all about this SWOT, it can give you a direction of where are you standing and where you want to go to your next step. So when we see the strength of this indigenous fashion, mostly it's very important because this is what we really represent, our unique histories and originality. That's number one. That's the strength that what indigenous fashion is. Also, one very important strength about indigenous fashion for me is the skill of the local weavers, which I directly work with, and who really understand what we as a community is. Also, this the strength is also stand on the handmade, which I think most of the Naga society doesn't appreciate yet, what handmade is. But this is something which I find it very interesting, and this is one of the strengths that I really find out when I work with the indigenous fashion. Also, when we see our strength, one very interesting thing is the global aesthetic that we have as a society. I mean, especially Nagas, our aesthetics are very global. The way how we approach things, the way how we see things, the way how we stylize things, these are very global aesthetics. So for me, that's also one of the strengths that which I see in indigenous fashion. And we Nagas are naturally very talented in so many ways. It's just we don't know how to commercialize it, also, or we don't know how to make a purpose out of it. But naturally, we are very talented. So these are some of the strengths that I think we as a society has, or we as a community have. But one very interesting thing when we do the SWOT analysis is the weakness of our community, or let's say the weakness of what indigenous fashion for me is. Logistically, we are very, right now the situation that we are in, also the logistic that we have, especially because I base my brand in Yuku. It's in Manipur. So for us, the struggling that we have, or the weakness that we have, which we can't compete to other society or other community, is the logistics side. Because we don't have good courier, we don't have fast enough courier system, which we want to. Suppose if we really wanted to achieve something, or if something emergency come out from other place, we can't able to manage the logistics. That's one of the weakness that we have. Because of that, I also lost many important clients because fashion usually works on timeline. Also, like, the one very weakness that we have is we never appreciate the value that we have until someone or until, like, the others validate us. We never appreciate the value which we have. That's what I'm, like, facing a lot. So, like, the best example is, like I said, I'm making mekhalas, right? I'm making cushion, or I'm making, like, lots of handmade stuff. And in a way, like, when I got so many orders from mainland Indians, or let's say, like, international client, and the moment when they receive the product, their admiration is different. They like asking me how, like, you guys are managed by all this design with hand. That is their first reaction, the compliment. But when it's a domestical, like, order, let's say, like, from my side, they always find out the mistake, like, or, like, this doesn't go along with the pictures that we see. So something like that, right? So, like I said, one of our very strong point is the handmade value, which we don't know what handmade value is. That's what I think we are facing a lot in terms of when we do all this like handmade skill. So, like, we as a society, or, like, when I say we, just for now, like, just understand that tamko, okay, because that's what my experience is. We always, like, wait for a validation from mainland India, or let's say from Western country, to accept, like, our design is good, so that they also accept what we're doing is good. That is something which I think one of the maladies that we have as a society, and which I think we need to discuss more on our values. That's what I find out. Also, one very weakness that we have is the unprofessionalism when we work, because we as a society come from a very different background. So when we work, or me, like, me also is one of the person who take very lightly when I work with my community. The same way, when they work with me, they also take it very lightly. So something like that, the unprofessionalism, like, is there. It's just like we are so casual in so many ways. That is also one of the weakness that we have when we do the SWOT analysis. Now, going back to the opportunities that we have, if you want to work on an indigenous fashion, this is what I find out. The changing scenario of fashion is a lot. I mean, I did my graduation in 2016 from New Delhi. Now this is 2004, and the scene of the fashion is completely changed. So, like, when we see, I mean, by the time, if I remember, in 2016, I never thought that I'm going to work on indigenous fashion. And that also, like, not only that, I don't even know what indigenous fashion is. Fashion, what we know by that time, is all about clan, it's all about celebrities, it's all about Bollywood, Hollywood. So, I mean, the local fashion doesn't surface in my mind. But now, with the changing of time and with my understanding, what I find is the way how things are moving, it's very interesting. So something like this, the opportunities, and most of the time we thought that, like, like, I'm from the creative industry, so, like, what we do is by the time, when, like, we just follow the trend, like, what the mainstream media is talk about, what the mainstream magazine is talk about, and what this, like, popular celebrities are wearing. But now, if you see, by this time, I don't think, like, we don't have that set rules anymore, because of all these digital fashions, or because of all this internet, everything is breakdown, and most of the big like magazine like Vogue, all these Harbour Bazaars, they are struggling, because now fashion in a way is so democratized, so that, like, everybody can have their opinion, everybody can sell anything through their platform. So, I mean, like, the changing scenario with this, I think there are lots of opportunities for people who is doing indigenous fashion in a very different way. That's what one reason that I find out. Also, like, we have new market everywhere. So most of my clients, like, for me, like, professionally, most of my clients are strangers, which I've never met in my life. And so, like, in terms of market, with all this digital thing, it's like, it's limitless in so many ways. So something like that is opportunity for me. Also like, when I was doing all this experiment brand, what I realized is most of my community, let's say my Tangkur community, especially the youngster generation, they like, they are more into like, they started to love their culture more in different way, which I never thought that like, they have that kind of mentality. So like, in terms of something like that, so let's say like, the younger generation or the upcoming generation, they are more rooted in so many ways. They want to buy something which they really value. Also, they want to buy something which represents something to them. So that's what I feel, and I think that is also one of the reasons why I have so many younger clients. And for me, that's a very big opportunities that like, I'm still like trying to figure out. Also, like I said, with all this changing time, this is the way how like, the words are changing in so many ways. Like, we are more rooted, we understand our culture like, more better, and we also acknowledge our culture in a very like more interesting way. So something like this, these are the opportunities that I find. So now, like, before I go my last point, that is the thread in SWOT analysis, I have very one important question that I really wanted to raise is, so this one, the picture, like it's from the Voice of Fashion, that they feature some of our work from folks from the Northeast India who's doing our textile in a very different way. So I have the conversation with the managing editor of the Voice of Fashion, and we have all this conversation. It's a very long piece, like it's there in their website. And at the end, what she told me was very interesting. Zimik, the way how you approach things is very interesting, and it's like, it's a new approach. But what you need to understand in the market is that first you need to know your people first. Let's say like, the thing is, like I said, my brand is, what we are doing right now is we want to make Mekhala mainstream fashion. That is the core purpose of my brand. And when I do that, all these things, even like, for our community also, it's a very new concept, because we call it kashan, and we have like, kashan need to be like this. I mean, even for like, you guys also must have like, Mekhala needs to be like this. The mentality, right? It's a man-made mentality, but like, we never consider Mekhala as fashion. I mean, that's my understanding when I was working with my brand, because at first, like, I tried to have this conversation with so many older generation also, and they never see fashion like that. They don't want to style it, but they can wear only when they go to church, like a formal occasion something. So what she told me is, first, like, you people also need to know that it's a fashion piece. Once you guys know, like, what it represents or what it can do, then obviously the mainstream market will definitely accept it in so many ways. So I think that the question like hit me very hard, because I was like trying to go mainstream, but at the same time, even my like community doesn't like see that way. So like, that is one of the questions that I raised myself. So like, I started styling with all this younger generation. Like, you take this Mekhala with you and just style it in your own way. Just style it, like, just see like, how you can style it. So, I mean, that is one of the turning points that I do lots of exploration around. And I think now, like, it become more like a fashion statement in a way also. And people are started like, exploring more in terms of, this Mekhala or kashan. So for me, like, this is one question that we all need to ask, like, when we are talking about indigenous fashion. Like, are we seeing this as a fashion, or are we seeing that it's just a product that needs to go, like, only on, like, let's say a formal occasion or something like that. So one very interesting things about this SWOT analysis that I do and come up with is the thread. And the thread is like, most of the indigenous fashion, which we have right now is based on story, is based on like something which it's more like a culture based. So let's say like a traditional belief, like in our designs and everything. So we like people are also very confused in so many ways because we don't have any rules and everything. That is also one like thread that which we have. The thread is that like suppose if we are using this design like so mainstream, maybe the significance or the value of that mekhala might get lost. So something like that is also the same question from older generation also. They ask the question that like this is not mekhala, or this is not kashin. So like if you do like this, then our like the traditional like textile will got like lost its meaning, something like that. So in that way, what I find the answer will be like we as a creative people, or like we as a people who knows what is right and what is wrong, also need to know our homework first, like so that not to misuse the traditional textile that we have, and so that like both parties goes aligned with one vision. Also like there is also lots of copying happens from mainstream market or like from different communities. So one very best example, the case study that I did was this artwork. It's not there because you can't see anything. So like actually if you see the textile, then you get to know like the case that come up with. It's mostly it's about like fighting for the identity in so many ways. And I think there are so many instances happening even like recently also many like Naga textile are being misused by the mainland that we have. So two main important thread that I find is we also need to know our like textile much better, like or our indigenous fashion much better, so that like we don't misuse it. Also like we also need to GI tag all these things. GI means like the geographical indication tag that which we like we can take all the textiles so that like mainstream people can't exploit in our like through by creative means. So these are the threads that I find, and so like that's the short SWOT analysis that I come up with. And like I said, when you wanted to work on indigenous fashion, it's completely different from the normal fashion that you are doing. Because the thing is because we as a society or we as a community have lots of emotion in us with our textiles, so you can't misuse it. Also like you also need to know like your homework first, so that like do your research better, do like what textile represent, and like come up with a better idea. So the one which I'm doing right now, when I say my brand, they are not the one which we have. So these are all new, like these are all new patterns that I come up with and that we are developing. So it takes time. So like there are lots of process involved in doing like indigenous fashion. It's just like when you do a normal fashion, you just go to like fabric store and you just take the fabric and you just cut and you just sew, and that's it. But when you do the indigenous fashion, it's different because it's a process-based fashion where like you understand like how textile work, how design work, and like I said, there are so many sentiment involved in our textile, in our indigenous fashion textile. So you need to know what it represents and like how you want to take forward for the future. That's the short PPT that I prepared. And if it's more like cleaner, then it would be more better. But since this is the PPT that we have, that's the best picture that I can show. And yeah, regarding my work and everything, since you guys follow my work, if you have any confusion or if you really wanted to know, more about indigenous fashion, I am always there on social media and you can connect me there. And yeah, that's it.